There's a specific heat to a trigger. It's not just annoying or disagreement, it's a sudden visceral reaction that feels personal, overwhelming, and often out of proportion to the moment. A coworker's offhand comment, a relative's familiar criticism, even a stranger's behavior in traffic. It can send a jolt through the system, a flare of anger, a pang of envy, or a deep, unexpected feeling of being seen. For a long time, it was easy to believe that these feelings were caused by the other person. They did the thing, and so we feel the feeling. It seems logical. But what if that's only half the story? What if the other person isn't the cause, but the catalyst? What if they are the match, but the flammable material? The old wound, the hidden belief, the disowned part, has been inside us all along. That's the territory of triggers and projections. A trigger is an external event that activates an internal, unresolved emotional wound. It's like pressing on a bruise we forgot we had. The pain is real, but the pressure simply revealed what was already there, waiting beneath the surface. A projection, in a psychological sense, is the unconscious process of attributing our own unacknowledged feelings, desires, or traits onto another person. We see them what we cannot or will not see in ourselves. Both of these mechanisms point to a fundamental truth. Our strongest emotional reactions, whether positive or negative, are less about the other person's character and more about our own inner landscape. That person isn't creating our pain or our admiration. They are holding up a mirror to a pain or an admiration already existing within us. They are showing us a high definition where we are not yet free or where we aspire to grow. We can think of it like this. Our psyche has a kind of internal organization. The parts of ourselves we feel comfortable with, that we accept and show to the world, make up what some call the conscious personality. But other parts, traits, impulses, vulnerabilities that were deemed unacceptable, embarrassing, or dangerous somewhere in our past get pushed away into the unconscious. This rejected material doesn't disappear. It forms what depth psychology refers to as the shadow. Because these parts are unconscious, we don't recognize them as our own. Instead, we have a powerful tendency to perceive them in other people. The person who infuriates us with their arrogance might be reflecting a part of ourselves that longs to be confident and self-assured, but was ashamed for being too much. The person who stirs deep envy might be showing us a life path or a quality we desire, but feel is forbidden or impossible for us. The trigger is a signal, a flashing arrow pointing directly to a shadow aspect asking for integration. This idea isn't a modern invention. It's a seed planted in plain sight by those who understood the human soul. In the parable of the splinter and the plank, a teaching about projection is offered without using the clinical term. The instruction to first remove the plank from one's own eye before addressing the splinter in another's is a direct call to our own projections. The enlightened masters often taught through such lived relational metaphors, knowing the lesson would unfold when the student was ready to feel its truth in their own heated reactions. They offered a mirror law for relationships. So, what do we do with this heat, this jolt, this flare of feeling? The instinctive move is outward, to confront, to blame, to withdraw, to fix the other person. But the reflective move is inward. When that heat rises, it can become a sacred pause. Instead of following the impulse to speak or act from the triggered place, We can take a breath and turn the light of awareness onto the reaction itself. We can ask, what is this really about? What old story does this touch? What part of me feels threatened, diminished, or envious right now? This isn't about blaming ourselves for having a reaction. It's about becoming curious about its origin. It's shifting from "you made me feel this way" to "this feeling is in me." What is its history? This inner work is where alchemy happens. The coworker who seems lazy? Maybe their behavior triggers a deep-seated fear in us about our own worth being tied to relentless productivity. A fear installed long ago. That relative who feels critical? They might be mirroring our own harsh inner critic, the one we've internalized and now direct at ourselves. By pulling the projection back, by recognizing that the intense charge we feel belongs to an unloved part of our own psyche, we begin to reclaim our power. We stop giving other people the remote control to our emotional state. We start to see them more clearly as separate individuals with their own journeys, not just as carriers of our own disowned baggage. This doesn't mean we become doormats or condone poor behavior. Boundaries are still essential and healthy, but there's a world of difference between setting a boundary from a place of calm self-awareness versus lashing out from a place of triggered pain. One comes from wholeness, the other from fragmentation. As we practice this, catching the trigger, pausing, inquiring within, we start to clean the mirror. The distortions of our projections become less powerful. We begin to see others more as they are and ourselves more fully as we are, shadows and light included. The people in our lives, especially the challenging ones, become our greatest teachers. Each trigger of loving in fears nudge toward greater self-knowledge and integration. And in that integration, we find a deeper, more authentic peace, not because the world has changed, but because our relationship to what it reflects back has fundamentally shifted.